Listen to me carefully, because this message may explain something you have been feeling but could never put into words. Some people don't miss you when you walk away. They miss your attention. They miss your kindness. They miss your support. They miss the way you were always available when they needed something. And sometimes God has to allow distance between you and certain people so you can finally see what you couldn't see while you were trying to keep them close. You kept asking yourself, why did they change? Why don't they call me anymore? Why did they become cold when I stopped giving? But maybe they didn't change. Maybe you simply stopped giving them access to the version of you they were benefiting from. I want you to understand something today. Not every person who loses you has lost something they truly valued. Sometimes they have only lost access to what you provided. You gave them your time. You gave them encouragement. You listened when nobody else would listen. You showed up when they needed someone. You forgave them. You supported them. You made excuses for them. And then one day, you became tired. You stopped chasing. You stopped explaining. You stopped being available every time they called. And suddenly their attitude changed. That's when you discovered the truth. Your absence didn't hurt them because they loved you. Your absence bothered them because they could no longer benefit from you. But don't let that discovery make you bitter. Let it make you wise. God is teaching you that your kindness needs boundaries. Your heart needs wisdom. Your time has value. Your energy has value. And you don't have to keep exhausting yourself just to prove that you care. There comes a moment when you have to stop asking, how can I keep them? And start asking, why am I afraid to let them go? Because sometimes the people you're desperately trying to hold on to are the very people God is trying to separate you from. So today, I want you to listen with an open heart. If someone only appreciates you when you're useful, that's not genuine appreciation. If someone only remembers you when they need something, then if someone disappears when you stop giving, pay attention. Don't chase them. Don't beg them. Don't lower your standards to keep them. Stand still. Protect your peace. Know your worth. Because the moment you stop allowing selfish people to use your kindness, you create room for healthier relationships, greater peace, and a stronger version of yourself. And today, we're going to talk about 6 powerful truths about selfish people that can completely change the way you see relationships, boundaries, and your own value. There is a truth about selfish people. Don't misuse relationships, boundaries, and your own value. They miss your attention. They miss your kindness. They miss having someone they could call whenever they needed help. They miss the comfort you provided, the problems you solved, the encouragement you gave, and the way you always made yourself available. But when you stop doing those things, their behavior changes. Suddenly the calls become less frequent, the messages disappear, the concern fades, and you begin wondering, what happened? Did I do something wrong? Sometimes you didn't do anything wrong. Sometimes your change simply exposed their intention. Think about a person who always calls you when they have a problem. Maybe they need advice, money, a favor, transportation, emotional support, or someone to listen to their endless complaints. Every time they call, you answer. Every time they need something, you try to help. You stay awake late at night listening to them. You rearrange your schedule for them. You encourage them when they are discouraged. You defend them when other people criticize them. You become the person they know they can always depend on. But then one day, you become tired. You don't have the energy to answer immediately. You don't have the resources to help. You say, I'm sorry, I can't do that this time. And suddenly, the relationship feels different. They become cold. They stop checking on you. They stop asking how you are. They may even become angry because you are no longer giving them what they became accustomed to receiving from you. That moment can be painful, but it can also be revealing. Because when someone only stays close when you are useful, their attachment was never really about your heart. It was about your function in their life. And I want you to understand something. You are a person, not a service. You were never created to spend your entire life solving everybody else's problems while ignoring your own. You were never meant to destroy your own peace just so someone else could remain comfortable. Your kindness is beautiful, but kindness without boundaries can become exhaustion. Maybe you are a person, not a service. You were never created to spend your own peace. Your kindness is beautiful, but kindness without boundaries can become exhaustion. Maybe you've experienced this in your own life. You have a friend who never checks on you, but the moment they need something, your phone starts ringing. You have a relative who rarely asks how you're doing, but suddenly remembers you when they need assistance. You have someone who disappears for months, then returns with a problem and expects you to drop everything. And because you have a good heart, you help them again. You tell yourself, maybe this time will be different, but the pattern repeats. Eventually, you have to stop looking at what someone says and start looking at what they consistently do. Someone can say, I care about you, but if they never care about your struggles, your feelings, or your boundaries, their actions are telling you something different. This doesn't mean you should become cold. It doesn't mean you should stop helping people. It doesn't mean you should stop being generous. It means you need wisdom. There is a difference between helping someone and allowing someone to use you. There is a difference between being supportive and being constantly available. There is a difference between loving people and losing yourself trying to keep them happy. You can have a beautiful heart and still say no. You can forgive someone and still create distance. You can care about someone and still refuse to participate in a relationship that constantly drains you. And when you finally understand this, something powerful happens inside you. You stop taking every rejection personally. You stop wondering why someone stopped calling. You stop begging people to stay. You stop chasing people who only remember you when they need something. Instead, you begin asking a better question. What did this relationship teach me? Maybe it taught you to value yourself. Maybe it taught you to establish boundaries. Maybe it taught you that maybe the distance you are experiencing right now is giving you the clarity you couldn't have while you were constantly giving. Imagine carrying a heavy bag for someone every single day. At first you don't mind. You want to help. You carry it because you care. But after months and years, your shoulders hurt. Your hands hurt. You're exhausted. And when you finally put the bag down, that person doesn't ask whether you're okay. They only ask, why aren't you carrying my bag anymore? That is the difference between someone who values you and someone who values what you provide. The person who values you will notice your pain. The selfish person will notice the missing service. Never allow someone else's disappointment to convince you that your boundary is wrong. Sometimes people become upset not because you hurt them, but because you stopped allowing them to benefit from you, and that distinction is powerful. Your life should not be built around proving your usefulness to other people. You have dreams, you have responsibilities, you have a future, you have your own battles that nobody sees. You have mornings when you wake up tired but keep going. You have nights when you smile in front of people while fighting battles inside. So don't feel guilty for protecting your energy. The people who genuinely value you will understand that you cannot always give. They won't punish you because you needed rest. They won't make you feel guilty because you finally started choosing yourself. And if someone walks away simply because you stopped giving them unlimited access to your time, attention, money, energy, or support, let them walk. Don't chase them. Don't beg them. Don't keep explaining yourself. Sometimes their departure is the clearest answer you could have received. You don't need to hate selfish people. You don't need revenge. You don't need to prove that they were wrong. Just learn the lesson. Become wiser without becoming bitter. Become stronger without becoming cruel. Keep your good heart, but give it to people who know how to appreciate it. Because the goal is to stop giving your kindness to people who only love the benefits of having you around. And when you finally stop measuring your value by how useful you are to others, you will discover something beautiful. You don't have to earn your worth by constantly giving yourself away. The right people won't only miss what you did for them, they will miss you. They will ask how you are. They will care about your dreams. They will respect your boundaries. They will appreciate your presence even when you have nothing to give. And that is the kind of connection you should make room for. So if someone has walked away because you stopped doing everything for them, don't automatically assume that you lost someone valuable. Maybe you finally discovered what the relationship was really built on. Maybe you didn't lose a person who loved you. Maybe you lost a situation that was draining you. And sometimes realizing that is not a tragedy, it is freedom. You can have a good heart without giving everyone unlimited access to it. You can be generous without becoming responsible for everybody. You can care about people without carrying their entire world on your shoulders. One of the most important lessons you can learn in life is that kindness is a choice, not an obligation. Sometimes good-hearted people struggle with this because they are afraid of disappointing others. They say yes when they want to say no. They answer every call even when they are exhausted. They solve problems that were never theirs to solve. They keep forgiving the same behavior. They keep making sacrifices while the other person keeps making demands. And slowly, without even realizing it, they become tired, frustrated, and emotionally drained. Maybe you have experienced this yourself. Someone asks you for a favor, and you say yes. The moment you finally say, "I can't do it this time," they look at you differently. They might say, "You've changed." But perhaps you haven't changed into a worse person. Perhaps you have simply stopped abandoning yourself to keep everyone else comfortable. There is a difference. When you constantly say yes because you are afraid someone will be upset, that isn't always kindness. Sometimes it is fear. You are afraid they will leave. You are afraid they will judge you. You are afraid they will call you selfish. 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 You are afraid they will leave. But listen carefully. You should never have to destroy your peace to prove that you have a good heart. Think about a phone battery. If you keep using your phone without charging it, eventually it reaches zero. You can have the best phone in the world, but it still needs to recharge. You are the same. You can be strong and still need rest. You can be generous and still need support. You can love people and still need boundaries. You can be there for others and still say, "Today, I need to take care of myself." There is nothing selfish about that. Imagine a mother who spends every day taking care of everyone in the house. She cooks. She keeps saying, "I'm fine." Nobody asks her, "Are you tired?" Nobody asks, "What do you need?" For years, she keeps saying, "I'm fine." But inside, she is exhausted. One day, she finally decides to rest. Maybe she doesn't answer every request immediately. Maybe she says, "I need some time for myself." And suddenly someone complains, "Why aren't you helping?" That is when she realizes something. People had become comfortable with her sacrifice. And sometimes people don't realize how much you were carrying until you put something down. That's why you have to learn the power of a healthy boundary. A boundary doesn't mean you stopped caring. A boundary simply says, "I care about you, but I also care about myself." And that is a powerful statement. A boundary simply says, "I care about you, but I also care about myself." And that is a powerful statement. You don't have to answer every message immediately. You don't have to accept every invitation. You don't have to lend money every time someone asks. You don't have to solve every family problem. You don't have to listen to the same complaint every day if it is destroying your mental peace. You don't have to keep explaining why you need space. Sometimes no is a complete answer. And if someone becomes angry because you said no, ask yourself why. If they truly respect you, they may be disappointed, but they will understand. If they only value what you provide, they might say. They might remind you of everything they have supposedly done for you. They might try to make you feel like a bad person. But don't allow guilt to control you. A selfish person may call your boundary selfish because your boundary prevents them from getting what they want. That doesn't make the boundary wrong. There is a beautiful lesson here. You don't have to prove your goodness by constantly sacrificing yourself. You can be a good person and still protect your time. You can be a loving person and still walk away from disrespect. You can forgive someone and still decide that they no longer have access to every part of your life. You can wish someone well without continuing a relationship that constantly drains you. And when you start living this way, you may notice something interesting. Some people will leave. At first, that may hurt. You may wonder, was I wrong? But then something else happens. You become peaceful. Your schedule becomes lighter. Your mind becomes clearer. You stop waking up worried about everybody else's problems. You begin focusing on your own goals. You begin giving your energy to people who appreciate it. You begin understanding that your life is not supposed to be a constant emergency service for everyone around you. Your time matters. Your energy matters. Your future matters. Your peace matters. Sometimes you need to step back and ask yourself, am I helping because I genuinely want to, or because I'm afraid of what will happen if I don't? That question can change your life. Because when you realize that fear has been controlling your yes, you can finally learn to say no without guilt. And here's something else you need to understand. People who genuinely love you will not require you to destroy yourself to keep the relationship alive. They will understand when you're tired. They will respect when you need space. They will appreciate your help instead of demanding it. They will not make your kindness feel like a debt. They will not treat your generosity as an unlimited resource. The right people won't only ask, what can you do for me? They will ask, how can I be there for you? That is the difference between a healthy relationship and a relationship built on obligation. So keep your kindness. Don't let selfish people make you cold. Don't let disappointment turn your heart into stone. Just become wiser about where you place your kindness. Give, but don't destroy yourself. Love, but don't lose yourself. Help, but don't become someone's permanent solution. Forgive, but don't ignore repeated disrespect. And most importantly, remember this: your ability to say no does not make you a bad person. It makes you a person who understands that your life, your time, and your peace have value. You don't have to feel guilty for choosing yourself sometimes. You don't have to apologize for needing rest. You don't have to explain every boundary. And you certainly don't have to keep giving to people who only appreciate you when you're useful. Let your kindness remain beautiful. Let your heart remain soft. But let your wisdom decide who gets access to it. Because when you stop confusing kindness with obligation, you stop living to please everyone else, and you finally begin living with purpose, peace, and strength. Pay attention to what happens when you finally say no. Not when you say yes. Not when you are available. Not when you are solving everyone's problems. Watch what happens when you finally establish a boundary and decide that you cannot keep giving everything you have. That moment can reveal more about a person than years of conversations ever could. For a long time, you may have believed that certain people cared deeply about you because they were always around. You thought their calls, messages, visits, and conversations meant they genuinely valued your presence. But sometimes you don't discover someone's true intentions while you're giving them everything they want. You discover them when you finally stop. Imagine having a friend who constantly asks for your help. Whenever they have a problem, they call you. Whenever they need advice, they come to you. Whenever they are struggling, you listen. You give them your time, your attention, and your energy. You never make them feel like a burden because you care about them. Then one day, you have your own responsibilities. You're tired. You have your own problems. You simply cannot help. So you say, I'm sorry, I can't do it today. And suddenly, their voice changes. They become distant. They become offended. They may say, you were never like this before. But the truth is, maybe you were always tired. You just never told them. Maybe you were always overwhelmed. You just kept pretending everything was fine. Maybe you were always sacrificing. They become distant. They become offended. They may say, you were never like this before. But the truth is, maybe you were always sacrificing. They simply became comfortable with your sacrifice. A boundary doesn't create someone's selfishness. A boundary reveals it. When you start saying no, you begin seeing who respects you and who only respects what you provide. The person who genuinely values you may say, I understand, take care of yourself. The selfish person may say, but why can't you do it? The genuine person may give you space. The selfish person may pressure you. The genuine person may appreciate everything you've done before. The selfish person may act like you have never done anything for them. And that's when you need to stop arguing and start observing. Sometimes the strongest answer is simply, no, I can't, and then you remain peaceful. There are people who become uncomfortable when you grow stronger, because your growth changes what they can access. When you were always available, they were comfortable. When you always said yes, they were comfortable. When you kept forgiving everything, they were comfortable. When you tolerated disrespect, they were comfortable. But when you finally say, this is where I draw the line, suddenly they accuse you of changing. And maybe you have changed. Maybe you finally realize that being a good person does not mean allowing everyone to treat you however they want. Think about a door. A door is not a wall. A door allows people to enter. but it also allows you to decide when it should remain closed. Your life needs doors. Your heart needs doors. Your time needs doors. Not everyone deserves unlimited access to you. And setting a boundary doesn't mean you are closing your heart forever. It means you are becoming intentional about who gets access to it. You don't need everyone to understand the version of you that is finally learning to protect your peace. There is something powerful about becoming comfortable with disappointing people, because when you stop living for everyone's approval, you become free. You realize that you cannot make everybody happy. If you say yes to everything, someone will eventually take advantage of you. If you say no, someone may become disappointed. Either way, someone may have something to say, so choose the path that protects your peace and keeps you aligned with what matters. The right people will not punish you for having boundaries. They may not always agree with you, but they will respect you. They will understand that you have your own life. They will understand that you cannot always be available. They will understand that sometimes you need rest. And if someone disappears simply because you stop doing everything for them, don't chase them. Let the silence reveal what the constant contact was hiding. Sometimes you don't need to ask, why did they leave? Their behavior already answered the question. They weren't attached to your heart. They were attached to your availability. They weren't necessarily missing your presence. They were missing your usefulness. And that realization may hurt, but it can also become one of the most valuable lessons of your life. Now you can stop feeling guilty. You can begin building relationships where giving goes both ways. You can surround yourself with people who appreciate you when you're strong and when you're struggling. People who don't only come when they need something. People who ask how you're doing. People who notice when you're tired. People who respect your no. People who don't make you feel like love has to be earned through constant sacrifice. And if God is allowing you to see someone's true character, don't ignore the lesson. Sometimes clarity is more valuable than companionship. So, don't be afraid to establish boundaries. Don't be afraid to say no. Don't be afraid to protect your peace. And don't allow anyone to convince you that your boundaries make you a bad person. Your boundary is not cruelty. Your boundary is wisdom. Your boundary is self-respect. Your boundary is you saying, I can love people without allowing them to use me. And when you learn that, something changes inside you. You stop trying to prove your value. You stop trying to keep everyone happy. You stop fearing who might walk away. You stop trying to keep everyone happy. You stop fearing who might walk away. You stop trying to prove your value. You stop trying to keep everyone happy. You stop fearing who might walk away. You stop trying to keep everyone happy. You stop trying to prove your value. You stop trying to keep everyone happy. You stop fearing who might walk away. You stop trying to keep everyone happy. You stop fearing who might walk away. You stop trying to keep everyone happy. You stop fearing who might walk away. You stop trying to prove your value. You stop trying to keep everyone happy. You stop fearing who might walk away. You stop trying to prove your value. 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 You stop. Protect your peace. And remember, the moment you establish a healthy boundary, you don't lose the right people. You reveal who was never respecting you in the first place. There is a moment in life when you have to stop chasing people who only remember you when they need something. You have to stop being the person who is always reaching out, always checking in, always asking, "Are you okay?" while nobody seems to ask the same question about you. You have to stop running after relationships that only seem alive when someone wants something from you. And I know that can be difficult, especially when you have a good heart. You may tell yourself, maybe they are busy, maybe they are going through something, maybe they will change. So you give them another chance, then another, and another, but eventually you have to stop making excuses for a pattern that keeps hurting you. Think about someone who only calls you when they have a problem. When life is going well, you don't hear from them. When they are happy, they don't remember you. When they have good news, they celebrate with other people. But the moment something goes wrong, suddenly your phone starts ringing. They know exactly who to call. They know you will listen. They know you will encourage them. Maybe you even sacrifice your own time or money to help them. them, then the problem is solved, and they disappear again. No message, no how are you, no thank you, no concern about what you're dealing with, until the next problem arrives. Then suddenly, they remember your name again. That kind of relationship can slowly teach you a painful lesson. Some people don't build relationships with you. They build access to you. They don't think, how can I be a better friend? They think, who can help me when I need something? And if you are always that person, you can become so accustomed to being needed that you mistake being needed for being loved. But they are not the same thing. Being needed means someone wants something from you. They think being valued means someone cares about you even when you have nothing to give. There is a huge difference. You can see it in everyday life. Think about the friend who disappears when you are struggling financially, but appears when they need to borrow money. Think about the relative who never asks how your life is going, but calls when they need a favor. Think about the person who never celebrates your achievements, but suddenly appears when they need your connections, your advice, or your support. You may keep telling yourself, that's just how they are, but you have to ask yourself, and how am I allowing them to treat me? That question can change everything, because sometimes the problem isn't that you have a kind heart, your advice, or your support. You may keep telling yourself, that's just how they are, but you have to ask yourself, and how am I allowing them to treat me? That question can change everything, because sometimes the problem isn't that you have a kind heart. The problem is that you keep giving your kindness to people who have shown you they don't know how to value it. You don't have to become cruel. You don't have to stop caring. You simply need to stop chasing. If someone doesn't call, don't always be the one who calls. If someone doesn't check on you, don't spend your entire life checking on them. If someone repeatedly disappears and returns only when they need something, stop making their emergencies your responsibility. Let them experience what it feels like to solve their own problems. You are not responsible for rescuing everyone, and sometimes the best thing you can do for someone is allow them to stand on their own. There is also something powerful about silence. When you stop chasing someone, you give them space to reveal their intentions. If they genuinely care, they will eventually reach out because they miss your presence. If they only cared about your usefulness, they may disappear until the next opportunity comes along. Either way, you get your answer without begging for it, and that answer can give you peace. You don't need to confront everybody. You don't need to send a long message explaining how hurt you are. You don't need to demand that someone appreciate you. Real appreciation doesn't need to be forced. The people who value you will show it. They will eventually reach out because they miss your presence. They will remember important things about you. They will check on you without needing a favor. They will celebrate you without competing with you. They will support you when you have nothing to offer them. That's what you should look for. Not perfection, not people who never make mistakes, but people whose relationship with you isn't based entirely on what you can provide. And if someone only comes back when they need you, don't let their temporary attention convince you that everything has changed. Watch the pattern. If the same cycle continues again and again, believe what you're seeing. You cannot love selfishness out of someone. You cannot give enough to make an ungrateful person grateful. And you cannot keep sacrificing your peace hoping that someone will finally realize your value. Sometimes you have to stop. Stop calling. Stop chasing. Stop explaining. Stop proving. Stop waiting for someone to treat you differently when their actions have already told you who they are. And when you stop chasing, don't feel empty. Use that space to build yourself. Call someone who genuinely cares about you. Work on your goals. Spend time with people who bring peace into your life. Rest. Learn. Grow. Become the person you were too busy supporting everyone else to become. Because your life cannot remain on hold while you wait for selfish people to recognize your worth. God did not put you on this earth to spend your entire life begging for attention from people who only remember you when they need something. Your life has value beyond what you can do for others. Your presence matters beyond your usefulness. Your heart deserves relationships where love moves in both directions. So if someone walks away because you stop chasing them, let them go. If someone only returns when they need something, don't confuse their return with genuine love. And if someone only returns when they need something, don't confuse their return with genuine love. And if someone suddenly misses you after you stop giving, remember the lesson. They may not miss the person you are. They may miss the access they had to you. You don't need to become angry about that. You simply need to become wiser. Sometimes walking away isn't rejection. Sometimes walking away is self-respect. Sometimes silence isn't loneliness. Sometimes silence is peace. And sometimes the people you stop chasing are the very people who are preventing you from discovering how peaceful your life could become without constantly trying to earn their attention. So don't chase what doesn't choose you. Don't beg for what should be freely given. Don't keep knocking on doors where nobody is opening them. And remember this, the right people won't only come to you when they need something. They will come to you because they genuinely want you in their life. Sometimes you don't need another conversation. You need observation. You need to step back and watch what happens when you stop forcing things, stop chasing people, stop making excuses, and stop trying to keep relationships alive all by yourself. There are moments when God allows distance to enter your life, not because He wants you to suffer, but because distance can reveal what closeness was hiding. When someone is always around you, it can be difficult to see their true intentions. You become emotionally attached. You remember the good moments. You remember how they helped you once. You remember the laughter, the conversations, the promises. And because you remember those things, you may continue making excuses for behavior that keeps hurting you. You say, maybe they didn't mean it. You say, maybe they're just having a bad day. You say, maybe they'll change. So you keep giving chances. But sometimes God allows you to step away so you can finally see the relationship without the emotional fog. Think about a person who always makes you feel exhausted. Every conversation becomes a complaint. Every meeting becomes another request. Every interaction leaves you wondering whether you did enough. But because you care about them, you keep trying. Maybe your circumstances change. Maybe you stop talking as often. Maybe you simply become busy with your own goals. At first you miss them. You wonder what they're doing. You may even feel guilty for not being there. But after some time you begin noticing something. Your mind is calmer. Your heart is lighter. You aren't constantly waiting for the next problem. You aren't constantly wondering what they want. You aren't constantly trying to prove your loyalty. And then you realize something powerful. The distance didn't destroy your peace. It revealed how much your peace had already been disturbed. But imagine carrying a heavy backpack every day. After a while, you become so accustomed to the weight that you forget what it feels like to walk without it. Then one day, you take the backpack off. Suddenly, your shoulders feel lighter. You breathe differently. You walk differently. That's what distance can do. It can give you perspective. It can show you what you couldn't see while you were constantly involved. And sometimes the hardest thing to accept is that not every relationship is meant to continue forever. Some people enter your life for a season. Some teach you through kindness. Some teach you through disappointment. Don't waste your pain by only asking, why did this happen to me? Ask, what is this teaching me? Maybe it is teaching you to trust actions more than words. Maybe it is teaching you to stop ignoring red flags. Maybe it is teaching you to stop giving unlimited chances. Maybe it is teaching you that peace is more valuable than forced companionship. And maybe God is using that experience to prepare you for relationships that are healthier, more balanced, and more genuine. Their interest fades when you stop giving. Their attitude changes when you set boundaries. And at first, you may think your prayer has gone unanswered, but perhaps the answer is right in front of you. Sometimes God doesn't expose people through dramatic moments. Sometimes He simply allows their behavior to become impossible for you to ignore. And that's when you need courage. Courage to accept what you're seeing. Courage to stop making excuses. Courage to stop chasing. Courage to walk away without hatred, because you don't need to hate someone to understand that they are not good for your peace. You can wish someone well from a distance. You can forgive them without inviting them back into every part of your life. You can release anger without reopening the door. That is maturity. You don't have to carry resentment everywhere you go. You can simply say, I learned what I needed to learn, and now I am moving forward. Think about a relationship where you were always the one initiating contact. You sent the messages. You made the plans. You checked on them. You apologized first. You kept the relationship alive. Then you stop. Days pass. Weeks pass. And nothing happens. No call. No message. No effort. That silence may hurt, but it also gives you an answer. You were not maintaining a relationship. You were maintaining a relationship. That truth may hurt for a moment, but confusion can hurt for years. Knowing the truth allows you to make better decisions. And sometimes the greatest blessing is not getting the person back. Sometimes it is getting yourself back, getting your confidence back, getting your peace back, getting your time back, getting your focus back, getting your ability to dream again. You may have spent so much energy trying to keep someone happy that you forgot what made you happy. You may have spent so much energy trying to understand someone's behavior that you forgot to understand your own needs. Distance can change that. It can bring you back to yourself. And if God has allowed certain people to move away from you, don't automatically assume that something has gone wrong. Sometimes separation is protection. Sometimes distance is preparation. Sometimes losing access to someone is the beginning of finding peace. You don't have to chase every person who leaves. You don't have to force every relationship to survive. You don't have to hold on to people simply because you have history together. History matters, but peace matters too. So if someone has recently become distant from you, take a breath. Don't panic. Don't beg. Don't immediately blame yourself. Step back and observe. Watch their actions. Watch your own peace. Notice how you feel when you're around them and how you feel when you're away from them. And then trust yourself enough to recognize what the situation is teaching you. Maybe God is not taking something from you. Maybe He is showing you something. Maybe the distance is revealing the truth. Maybe the truth is exactly what you needed to see so you can stop giving your heart to people who don't know how to value it. And when that clarity comes, don't be bitter. Be grateful. Because sometimes the people who leave make room for the people who truly belong. And sometimes the distance you desperately wanted to end becomes the very distance that teaches you how to walk forward with peace. So trust the lesson, trust the process, pay attention to what God is revealing, and remember, when God allows distance, don't always rush to close the gap. Sometimes you need the distance so you can finally see the truth. There comes a moment in life when you have to stop asking, do they value me? And start asking, do I value myself enough to walk away from what keeps hurting me? That question can change the way you see relationships, friendships, family. You stop chasing people who constantly make you feel unwanted. You stop accepting disrespect simply because you are afraid of being alone. And most importantly, you stop believing that your worth depends on how useful you are to somebody else. You have to understand this deeply. You don't have to be needed to be valuable. Your worth is not determined by how many problems you can solve. It is not determined by how many people call you when they need help. It is not determined by how many people call you when they need help. It is not determined by how many people call you when they need help. It is not determined by how many people call you when they need help. It is not determined by how many people call you when they need help. It is not determined by how many people call you when they need help. It is not determined by how many people call you when they need help. It is not determined by how many people call you when they need help. It is not determined by how many people call you when they need help. It is not determined by how many people call you when they need help. It is not determined by how many people call you when they need help. It is not determined by how many people call you when they need help. It is not determined by how many people call you when they need help. It is not determined by how many people call you when they need help. It is not determined by how many people call you when they need help. It is not determined by how many people call you when they need help. It is not determined by how many people call you when they need help. The family member everyone depends on. The person who always finds a solution. When someone needs advice, they call them. When someone needs support, they call them. When someone needs help, they show up. But who shows up for them? Sometimes nobody, and yet they keep giving because they believe their importance comes from being needed. Then one day, they become tired. They stop answering every call. They stop solving every problem. They stop solving every problem. They stop solving every problem. That is where self-respect begins. Self-respect means you can love someone and still walk away when they repeatedly disrespect you. It means you can forgive someone without allowing them to hurt you again. It means you can care about someone without giving them unlimited access to your life. It means you can say, I wish you well, but I cannot continue living this way. That isn't weakness, that's strength. There are people who will try to convince you that walking away means you didn't care. But sometimes walking away is proof that you finally care about your own life. Imagine standing in a room where the air has become difficult to breathe. You stay because you're afraid to leave. You keep telling yourself, maybe it will get better. But you wait. You tolerate. You adjust. You make excuses. But eventually, you realize that staying there is costing you your peace. So you walk outside. You breathe fresh air. And suddenly, you wonder why you stayed so long. That's what happens when you finally leave a relationship that has been draining you. At first, the silence can feel uncomfortable. You may miss the person. You may question yourself. You may wonder whether you made the right decision. But give yourself time. Peace can feel strange when you have become accustomed to chaos. Space to think, space to heal, space to grow, space to become yourself again. And sometimes God allows you to reach that point because He wants you to understand that your life cannot be built around people who constantly diminish you. You have dreams that deserve your attention. You have goals that deserve your energy. You have a future that deserves your focus. You cannot spend all your strength trying to convince someone else to appreciate you. Let them misunderstand you. Let them underestimate you. Let them walk away. You don't have to prove your worth to people who have already decided not to see it. Its value exists whether someone recognizes it or not. You are the same. Someone's inability to appreciate you does not reduce your value. Someone's rejection does not define you. Someone leaving does not mean you were worthless. Sometimes people leave because they cannot handle the boundaries you finally established. Sometimes they leave because they were only comfortable with the version of you who never said no. Let them go. You don't need to become bitter. You don't need revenge. You don't need to prove that you can live without them. Just live, build, grow, heal, become stronger, and let your life speak for itself. There is a beautiful freedom that comes when you stop needing everyone to understand you. You realize that not everybody will like you. Not everybody will support you. Not everybody will appreciate you. And that's okay. Your job is not to convince everyone of your worth. Your job is to live in a way that honors the value God has placed within you. That means choosing your environment carefully, choosing your relationships wisely, protecting your time, protecting your peace, and refusing to stay where you are constantly disrespected. You may have been taught to hold on at all costs, but sometimes holding on is not strength. Sometimes strength is knowing when to release. Sometimes the bravest sentence you can say is, "This is no longer healthy for me." Sometimes the strongest step you can take is walking away without explaining yourself for the 100th time. And sometimes the greatest act of self-respect is deciding that you would rather be alone for a season than surrounded by people who make you feel alone. Don't be afraid of that season. Use it. Use the quiet to discover yourself. Use the distance to rebuild yourself. Use the pain to become wiser. Use the experience to create stronger boundaries. Use the pain to become wiser. Use the beg them to stay. Use the pain. They will respect you. They will appreciate you. They will support you. They will care about your heart, not just your usefulness. So stop asking whether you are enough for people who constantly make you feel like you aren't. Ask whether those relationships are worthy of the person you are becoming. And if the answer is no, don't be afraid to walk away. You are not losing your value by leaving. You are finally honoring it. You don't have to chase anyone who doesn't choose you. You don't have to beg anyone to appreciate you. You don't have to stay where your peace is constantly being sacrificed. Know your value, protect your heart, respect your boundaries. And remember this, sometimes walking away from the wrong people is how you finally make room for the right life. There comes a time in life when you have to understand that not everyone who walks away is someone you are supposed to chase. Sometimes you can love someone deeply, care about them sincerely, and still have to let them go. That doesn't mean your love was fake, or it doesn't mean you failed, it doesn't mean you weren't enough. Sometimes it simply means that the relationship has reached a place where holding on is costing you more than letting go. And this is where many people become trapped. They are afraid of losing someone, so they start begging. They send message after message. They call repeatedly. They explain themselves again and again. They apologize even when they weren't wrong. They promise to change things that didn't need changing. They do everything possible to keep someone from leaving. But listen to me carefully. You should never have to beg someone to recognize your value. If someone truly wants to be in your life, you shouldn't have to convince them. Think about a person who has been in a relationship where they are always the one trying to fix everything. When there is an argument, they apologize first. When there is distance, they reach out first. When something goes wrong, they take responsibility even when the other person contributed to the problem. They keep saying, "I don't want to lose you." So they keep trying. They keep giving. They keep forgiving. They keep waiting. But eventually, they become exhausted. One day they stop. They don't send the message. They don't make the phone call. They don't chase. And suddenly, they discover something painful but powerful. The relationship only survived because they were constantly carrying it. That realization can break your heart, but it can also open your eyes. Because love should not feel like one person is pulling while the other person is constantly walking away. A healthy relationship requires effort from both sides. You shouldn't have to beg someone to communicate with you. You shouldn't have to beg someone to respect you. You shouldn't have to beg someone to appreciate you. You shouldn't have to beg someone to treat you with basic kindness. And if you have reached the point where you're constantly begging for what should naturally exist, perhaps it's time to step back. Sometimes God allows someone to walk away because he knows that if they stayed, you would continue accepting less than you deserve. You might think you're losing the person you need, but perhaps you're losing the situation that was keeping you from growing. You might think the closed door is punishment, but perhaps it is protection. You might think the silence means you're forgotten, but perhaps the silence is giving you space to hear yourself again. For so long, you may have been listening to everyone else, their opinions, their demands, their expectations, their complaints, their disappointments. But when someone leaves, the silence can become an opportunity to finally listen to your own heart. What do you actually want? What kind of people do you want around you? What kind of treatment are you willing to accept? What kind of life do you want to build? Those questions become clearer when you stop chasing people who don't choose you. Imagine standing at a door and knocking over and over again. You knock once, nothing. You knock again, nothing. You knock harder, still nothing. At some point, you have to realize that your purpose is not to stand at that door forever. Maybe there is another door. Maybe there is another path. Maybe God is asking you to turn around and walk forward instead of continuing to knock. And I know walking away can be difficult. You may have memories, you may have history, you may have invested years, you may have imagined a future with that person, you may have believed that things would eventually become better. But history alone is not a reason to remain somewhere that continuously destroys your peace. You can appreciate what someone meant to you without allowing them to continue hurting you. You can remember the good times without returning to the same unhealthy situation. You can love someone from a distance. You can forgive without reopening the door. You can wish them well without following them into a life that is no longer meant for you. That is strength. Walking away doesn't always mean you stopped caring. Sometimes it means you finally started caring about yourself too. And there is a difference between giving up and letting go. Giving up says, I don't believe in myself anymore. Letting go says, I believe there is something better ahead. Even if I cannot see it yet. That's the mindset you need. You don't need to know exactly what comes next. You only need enough courage to take the next step. Maybe right now you're afraid that if you walk away, you'll be alone. But being alone for a season is better than being surrounded by people who constantly make you feel unwanted. Being alone can give you time to rebuild, time to heal, time to discover yourself, time to work on your dreams, time to become stronger. And sometimes the person you are afraid to lose is standing between you and the person you are becoming. So don't be afraid of losing access to people who never appreciated your presence. Don't be afraid of disappointing people who were comfortable with your sacrifice. Don't be afraid of becoming unavailable to people who only came to you when they needed something. Your life is bigger than one relationship. Your future is bigger than one person's opinion. Your purpose is bigger than someone's rejection. And your value is bigger than someone's inability to recognize it. God knows what you need before you understand it yourself. So when something leaves your life, don't immediately assume that your life is becoming smaller. Sometimes God removes something because he is creating space. Space for peace, space for growth, space for better relationships, space for opportunities, space for a stronger version of you. You may not understand the reason today. You may cry, you may question it, you may wish you could go back, but one day you may look back and realize that the thing you thought was breaking you was actually teaching you how to stand on your own. So stop begging people to stay. Stop chasing people who keep walking away. Stop convincing people that you're worth loving. Stop trying to prove yourself to people who have already decided not to appreciate you. Let your actions speak. Let your silence speak. Let your growth speak. Let your peace speak. And if someone chooses to leave, release them with dignity. Don't destroy yourself trying to keep someone who has already decided to go. You don't have to hate them. You don't have to fight them. You don't have to expose them. You don't have to wish bad things upon them. Just let them go. Then turn around and face your future. Because sometimes the greatest chapter of your life begins after you finally stop begging someone to remain in a chapter that God has already finished. And when you walk away, don't walk away believing that you lost. Walk away knowing that you learned. You learned your value. You learned your boundaries. You learned what genuine love looks like. You learned what you will never tolerate again. And most importantly, you learned that peace is not something you should have to beg for. So if someone doesn't choose you, choose yourself. If someone doesn't respect you, respect yourself enough to create distance. If someone doesn't appreciate, you don't spend your life trying to earn their appreciation. And if God is closing a door, don't spend your whole life standing outside it. Now turn around, lift your head, keep walking. Because sometimes what feels like rejection is actually redirection. Sometimes what feels like an ending is actually preparation. And sometimes the person you were begging to stay was the very person you needed to release so you could finally become who you were meant to be. Never beg someone to stay where they no longer choose you. Let them go with peace. And trust that what is truly meant for your life will never require you to destroy yourself just to keep it. At the end of everything, you have to make one decision. Will you continue giving your peace to people who only bring you confusion, or will you finally choose yourself? Because there comes a point where you have explained enough, forgiven enough, waited enough, and given enough. There comes a point where you don't need another conversation, you don't need another apology, you don't need another promise. You simply need peace. And maybe you spent years trying to keep certain people happy. You changed yourself for them. You adjusted your expectations. You ignored things that hurt you. You gave chance after chance because you believed that one day they would finally understand your heart. But sometimes that day never comes. And you have to accept that. And not because you're weak, and not because you stopped caring, but because you finally understand that peace is more valuable than being accepted by the wrong people. And think about someone who has spent years carrying emotional baggage from relationships that ended long ago. They still remember what someone said to them. They still replay the argument in their mind. They still wonder why that person treated them that way. They still ask, what did I do wrong? And every time they think about it, they reopen the same wound. But healing begins when you stop asking, why did they do this to me? And start asking, what am I going to do with my life now? And that question changes everything. And because you cannot change what happened yesterday. And you cannot force someone to become a better person. And you cannot make selfish people suddenly become selfless. And you cannot make someone appreciate you. And you cannot control who stays and who leaves, but you can control what you do next. And you can choose peace, and you can choose growth, and you can choose forgiveness, and you can choose to stop chasing, and you can choose to stop explaining yourself, and you can choose to stop returning to the same place that keeps breaking your heart. And that choice can become the beginning of a completely different life. And maybe today you are standing at the edge of a decision, and you know someone is not good for your peace, but you're afraid to let go. And you know the relationship is one-sided, but you're afraid of being alone. And you know someone only contacts you when they need something, but you're afraid that if you stop helping, they'll disappear. And let me tell you something. And if someone disappears because you stopped allowing them to use you, their departure is not proof that you weren't valuable. It is proof that their connection to you was conditional. And don't take that as a reason to hate them. And take it as a reason to understand yourself better. And you have to stop measuring your worth by who stays. And some people will leave. And some people will misunderstand you. And some people will talk about you. And some people will remember your mistakes and forget your kindness. And let them. And you don't have to spend your life correcting every opinion about you. And you don't have to chase every person who walks away. And you don't have to prove your heart to people who have already chosen not to understand it. And your responsibility is to keep moving forward. And sometimes moving forward means leaving certain people behind. And that doesn't make you selfish, and it makes you aware. And there's a difference between being selfish and choosing yourself. And being selfish means you don't care about anyone else. And choosing yourself means you finally understand that you matter too. And you can care about others and still protect your peace, and you can forgive others and still maintain boundaries. And you can love people and still walk away when the relationship becomes unhealthy. And you can wish someone well without giving them access to your life. And that's maturity. And that's growth. And maybe God has been trying to teach you this through every difficult relationship you've experienced. And maybe every disappointment taught you something. And maybe every betrayal taught you to recognize patterns. And maybe every selfish person taught you to value genuine people. And maybe every closed door taught you not to force what isn't meant for you. And maybe every season of loneliness taught you that your peace doesn't depend on having someone beside you. And you may not understand the lesson while you're going through the pain, but sometimes understanding comes later. And one day you'll look back and say, now I understand why I had to walk away. And you'll understand why that relationship ended. And you'll understand why that person couldn't stay. And you'll understand why God allowed certain doors to close. And you'll realize that you were not being punished, and you were being redirected. And so don't keep looking behind you. And don't keep wondering what could have been. And don't keep replaying old conversations. And don't keep imagining how things might have changed if you had tried harder, and you tried, and you cared, and you gave, and you showed up. And now it's time to live, and it's time to build, and it's time to heal, and it's time to become the person you were meant to become. And when you finally choose peace, something beautiful happens, and you stop needing closure from people who hurt you, and you create your own closure, and you stop waiting for an apology, and you forgive yourself for staying too long, and you stop asking why they didn't appreciate you, and you start appreciating yourself, and you stop chasing people, and you start attracting healthier relationships, and you stop begging for attention, and you start protecting your energy, and you stop trying to prove your worth, and you start living from a place of confidence, and that's where your freedom begins. And so if someone is watching this right now and feeling like they have been used, ignored, taken for granted, or only remembered when someone needed something, hear this clearly. And you are not what someone took from you. You are not the favor you did. You are not the money you gave. You are not the support you provided. You are not the problems you solved. You are a whole person with your own value, your own dreams, your own future, and your own purpose. And don't let selfish people convince you that your kindness was weakness, and your kindness was never the problem. And you simply needed wisdom about where to place it. And keep your heart, and keep your compassion, and keep your ability to love. But stop giving unlimited access to people who repeatedly prove they don't respect it. And when you walk away, don't walk away angry. And walk away peacefully. And walk away with your head held high. And walk away knowing that you did what you could. And walk away knowing that you learned. And walk away knowing that your future deserves more attention than your past. And because your story doesn't end with the people who hurt you, and your story continues, and there is still more life to live, and more dreams to pursue, and more peace to experience, and more people to meet, and more opportunities ahead. And so don't allow one selfish person to make you believe that everyone is selfish. And don't allow one betrayal to make you afraid of trust forever. And don't allow one painful chapter to convince you that the entire book is bad, and turn the page. And start again. And this time, choose relationships where you are valued for who you are, not simply for what you can do. And choose people who celebrate you. And choose people who respect your boundaries. And choose people who care about your heart. And choose people who don't only come when they need something. And above everything, choose peace. And because when you finally understand your worth, you will stop fighting for a place in people's lives where you were never truly appreciated. And you will stop chasing, and you will stop begging, and you will stop proving. And you will simply move forward, and one day you will look back at everything you survived and realize, and the people you thought you couldn't live without were never the end of your story. They were only part of the lesson that taught you how to value yourself. And so choose your peace and protect your heart and trust what God is showing you and release what is no longer serving your life. And never be afraid to walk away from people who only value you for what you can do for them. And because sometimes the greatest blessing isn't getting them back, and sometimes the greatest blessing is finally getting yourself back.